Hi everyone, welcome to Aquarius season. I'm going to do my best to make a video about this winter season and the energies that are coming through and the seeds that are being germinated right now, right? Because we are in the dead of winter. The sun has moved into Aquarius. It's at 0 degrees right now. There's a lot of energy in Aquarius. This is the first lunar cycle of 2026. And I say that because when we were in Capricorn season is always finishing out the previous year. So even though we were saying it's the first full moon and the first dark moon, but the reality of it is, it's still bringing, because Capricorn season starts in the previous year, it's still finishing out those energies. So, new lunar cycle, new sun cycle. It's Aquarius season, so here we go. All right, we're going to share this with you and we're going to dive right in. As you guys can see up at the top, the sun is at 0 degrees of Aquarius in 40 minutes. And who's not in Aquarius right now? So Mercury just entered Aquarius. It's at 0 degrees, 3 minutes. Pluto, of course, is at 3 degrees, moving very slowly, going to be there for the next 18 years. Venus just moved to 4 degrees because you can see down below she's at 1 minute. Vesta is at 4 degrees of Aquarius. Vulcan is an asteroid that follows the sun pretty closely, so he's at 6 degrees. And then you can see the moon is already at 22 degrees. And then when you look back into Capricorn, you can see Juno has entered Capricorn. But what's interesting is Mars, again, is at 27 degrees. So he's in conjunction, even though it's an out of sign conjunction, he's talking to all these planets right here. If you guys can remember from the dark moon video, the sun, Mars, and Mercury were all at the same degree in Capricorn for 3 days. And then they move forward. The sun and the moon talked about that energy. And then the moon took that conversation into Aquarius. And now the sun's bringing in that conversation and Mercury's bringing in that conversation, right? And the idea of the sun, the sun transmutes, right? It's alchemy. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius, who is death and transformation and transmutation, right? Just sitting in Aquarius. This is the year of the Firehorse, right? And this is the year of the Wheel of Fortune. And Aquarius is telling me the Firehorse is off and running because coming out of Capricorn season was finishing out the year of the wood snake where we were all shedding our skin, right? And now we are free and we're ready to jump on that fire horse and get moving. Okay, so you can see a couple things. This is kind of hard for me to get my thoughts all together just because there's so much energy in Aquarius, so much is happening. This is literally, we're not even 24 hours into Aquarius, and you see all the planets that are in there, and Mars will be coming in. So, what I want to point out is a few more things. Uranus, who is still in Taurus, right? Retrograde at 27 degrees. If you kind of look down, you can see Taurus. But Uranus is trined with the Sun, Mercury, and Mars. Okay. Uranus rules Aquarius. Okay. And Uranus is in a trine with the Sun, Mercury, and Mars. Mars is still in Capricorn. Uranus is the planet of the revolution, right? Freedom brings in, it's that aha moment, right? It's that lightning. It kind of comes out of nowhere. And it's now trining with what we associate as three masculine energies. Okay. And it's coming from Taurus, who is fixed earth. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. Okay. And that is that feminine energy. So again, this is talking about revolutionizing, reshaping these masculine energies. We've been talking about it for a long time on this channel to make them more a divine energy, right? Because with Venus, Vesta, the moon, and Pluto all in there, that is telling me, especially on this first day, this is telling me that that divine feminine energy is off and running. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, and when Uranus went into Taurus, Uranus stays in a sign for about 7 years. Okay, about 7 years. I'm going to try to stay on track. So it went into Taurus. It was churning up all that old energy from that age of Pisces, right? Because it knew we were moving into this age of Aquarius. When it went in there, that is when the Me Too movement came really big. Okay. So it started ripping up all those old ideas of patriarchal rule. Uranus knows what it's doing. It knows what it has one job, and it always does that, right? And you've got to remember, Uranus while all planets rotate like this, Uranus rotates on its side. Okay. So when it is the great disruptor, it is really the great disruptor. Okay. So here it is. It's in these final degrees of Taurus, reminding these three masculine planets. This is what we're doing. We're now in a new time. We're now in this new age of Aquarius. It's time to start getting on track, right? And that idea of that divine energy of the mass of the feminine, that matriarchal energy is the idea of leading with like compassion and empathy, knowing strong boundaries, right? Knowing who you are, knowing your self-worth, knowing your value. Those are all things Venus represents, okay? And so those signs are off and running. And I say Pluto also as a feminine sign because Aquarius registers as a masculine sign. And that masculine energy, right, is movement. Okay, Scorpio is feminine because it's fixed water. And so Pluto registers as a feminine. It can be androgynous. It doesn't, but because it rules Scorpio, I'm putting it with feminine energies. So Uranus is in there bringing some of this last minute information, right? She's sitting at 27 degrees. She's retrograde. She is telling these guys, okay, look, things are changing. We've been working at this for over 7 years now. The sun is at 0 degrees with Mercury. You know, Mercury is the planet of communication. And we talked about this a little bit in one of my classes that then it became Mercury became the trickster planet. Like, are you? Maybe. And it's like, we don't have time for that anymore, Mercury. Just get back to the basics of giving us the messages, right, from the gods, giving us the messages from each other. What is it that we need to know? What is it that we need to learn? What is it that's coming in, right, that you're bringing in from the cosmos? Mars went under, Mars and Aries went under that transformation back in 2018 and it could have been 2019 maybe, but now it's time to get on board. Okay, they've been catching up, and for the rest of the quote unquote masculine energy that's not there yet, it's saying no, it's here. So it's time, it's go time, right? It's go time. Venus in Aquarius, knowing your individual value, knowing that, Aquarius loves community, understanding we can all get along. What makes us stronger is our differences. In an exact conjunction with Vesta, who is the ancient flame of Rome, right? And when they talk about Vesta, she was so ancient, they don't really even know where she came from. And her temple is still there and it's round. And Vesta, whenever they prayed or did a ritual, they always invoked her name at the end. And when all the other like religions or gods and goddesses kind of fell out of favor, Vesta did not. She was still there. Okay, so that's how ancient she is. The home, the hearth, right? That heart space. Venus is like almost reuniting with the energy that she's now here to bring, right? She is in a deep conversation with Vesta. Vesta's saying, no, we got this. How are we going to give it to the rest of the world? We're going to plant this seed in Aquarius. People will know in this age of Aquarius, this is that divine feminine power that's going to be there. And again, you guys, it gets kind of choppy when we talk about masculine and feminine, but the idea of that divine feminine is the idea of compassion, empathy, understanding cycles, right? Women have cycles, strong boundaries in moving things, but also the idea of allowing, the idea of receiving, the idea of listening, the idea of using your intuition, using your gut feeling, being in tune with nature, right? It's everything working together, okay? Instead of that old patriarchal top-down, power over, slash and burn sort of mentality that we left when we got out of the Kali Yuga, that we left with the age of Pisces. We're in this new age of Aquarius, okay? Saturn and Neptune, okay, that are just hanging out at Pisces, talking about the end of Pisces, the end of Pisces. They are sextiling Uranus, and they're also sextiling Mercury and Mars, okay? So Uranus, once again, is I always say blowing up because I think it's funny because Uranus is the lightning. So Uranus is blowing up Saturn and Neptune and Mercury and Mars, okay? Because they have to have this new conversation because it's F and go time, right? They can't keep showing up. Saturn again rules Capricorn, so It's no surprise that Mars in Capricorn, in Saturn, its ruler, who's in Pisces, is in this conversation with Uranus because Capricorn is remembering now that it's a sea goat. It works with earth and with water, right? The mystic and things being solid. Neptune is getting ready to move into Aries, working with Uranus and Mercury and Mars, having this conversation about it's okay to have boundaries, right? Neptune, we want to be more spiritual. We want to allow, we want to work with our intuition. But we've also got to understand that we need to be grounded, right? We need some of that Capricorn Capricornian energy. I just made up that word. But we need to be grounded. We need to have boundaries. Okay, so they're in a deep conversation. And this is all happening today, okay? We're not even one day into Aquarius season. All right, Neptune is trining the sun. So again, Neptune is getting some new information. Our sun. Neptune is spirituality. I think Neptune and the sun, it's bringing in this conversation about boundaries. It is this conversation about understanding that there's new ways to lift people up, right? What will that look like? What is spirituality going to mean to the individual? Because I always read the sun, and not everyone reads it this way, but I read the sun as our solar plexus, as our self, right? So to have this conversation as the sun is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, those are those karmic turning points, okay? Neptune's at 29 degrees of Pisces. It will never return to Pisces in our lifetime, you guys, ever. So this is it. So the sun is saying this is this new beginning. Pisces is saying, yes, this is the end. How do we make this new beginning, right? Into this age of Aquarius, leaving this age of Pisces. It's a really beautiful sextile, actually, if you think about it. And understanding Neptune rules our dreams. Neptune that rules Pisces. Pisces is the alpha and the omega. It's the 12th sign in the zodiac, right? It knows right when one thing ends, something new will begin. And they're having this conversation. They know what's ending and they know what needs to begin. All this is happening on today. What does this all mean, like moving forward? And I kind of laughed at myself because it is the new year and like people are making appointments for things and wanting to learn things. Oh wait, before I move on, I do want to say Black Moon Lilith is in a sextile with Venus as well, right? And Black Moon Lilith is that energy of knowing the self, knowing the self-worth, knowing how to work in partnership, right? Um, and she's having this conversation with Venus, who's reminding herself of that, who's also in this deep conversation with the goddess Vesta. So lots happening and lots moving. First day. So going back, what does this all mean and what does this all look like? And I know a lot of astrologers will say, you know, Venus in Aquarius means this, and they're not wrong, right? And if it resonates, reach out, listen to it. But what I'm here to tell you, because these are all at karmic turning points, young points, right? To me, it's almost like making all the appointments, right? Or when you go talk with your girlfriends or you go talk with your friends and you're like, okay, what are the plans that we're going to make, right? This is all kind of like the planning phase. They know it's go time. They know they've got to get things started. Um, Now, what it will actually look like down the road, still not sure. Okay. But we're going to be making those plans. We're going to be making those doctor appointments, right? We're going to be, sharing new ideas, okay? Because that's also Aquarius, especially with Mercury coming in there to speak to everybody. So we don't have to have everything figured out right now. The main thing to know is that the Firehorse is off and running. You can see all these sextiles and trines. That's all those blue lines that it means things are moving swiftly. Okay. And I also think it's really interesting because Aquarius is the masculine planet, and Aquarius and that masculine energy is what get things moving. So things are starting to move. So now we're going to go over And you guys get your little pens and paper if you want. We're going to go over a few more dates for the rest of the winter season. Okay, so today is January 20th. The January 23rd, Mars will enter Aquarius. Okay, so Mars will be in the room. January 26th, Neptune will move out of Pisces and into Aries. And again, this is so significant because Neptune won't go back into Pisces for the rest of our lives because how slow Neptune moves. Okay. And this is to me, once again, ending that age of Pisces. Okay. So the 26th, Neptune will move into Aries. Okay. February 1st, we'll have our full moon in Leo. I mean, we always have the full moon in Leo, right? When the sun is in Aquarius. Okay. But this is also important at this time because it is lighting up Leo, who is fixed fire, right? Again, Taurus has Uranus in it at its final degrees. Okay. Aquarius, Taurus is fixed earth. Aquarius has Pluto in it, who is the ruler of Scorpio, which is fixed water. Then we're going to bring in Leo, right, for this full moon in Leo. So all the fixed signs who've been going over this huge transformation for the past 7 years are going to be speaking together for the first time in 2026. Wheel of Fortune, Firehorse. So get ready. February 3rd, Uranus will turn direct in Taurus. Okay. It's ready to finish up its cycle and move into Gemini, which will not happen until I think in March. So February 3rd, Uranus direct. 10 days after that, Saturn enters Aries. Okay. So now we will have Saturn and Neptune both in Aries at 0 degrees. Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. It is our I am presence. It is cardinal fire. Again, another milestone of ending this age of Pisces. And we'll get more into it as we get closer. Okay. The 17th of February, we're still in Aquarius season. That's when we're going to have the dark moon, and then we're going to have the annular solar eclipse. So not only are we in winter, not only are we in Aquarius season, we're also in eclipse season. Okay? I told you the fire horse is off and running. On the 18th of February, the sun will move into Pisces, which is kind of early. Usually the sun moves in to signs between 19th, 20, 21. I always think if it's an 18th or a 22, it's kind of early or kind of late. But it's saying the sun will move into Pisces on the 18th. I didn't check the time, so maybe in some other places it could be the 19th. Okay. So now we have moved into Pisces season. Everything's still going full force. But finally, on the 26th, no, 20th, I'm going to say the 20th, Mercury will go retrograde. Okay. So it's not till we're in Pisces season that we're going to be able to kind of take a break and look around and see these seeds that were planted exactly how they're showing up. Okay. The good thing about Pisces season, once again, it is that alpha and the omega. It is the beginning and the end. Pisces knows at its higher self when one thing ends, another thing begins immediately. Pisces at its lower self is that illusion, delusion, addiction, feeling extremely sorry for themselves. And so that's what we're moving out of in this Aquarius season, or in this age of Aquarius, I should say. So basically for the rest of our lives. And also, it's important to remember that lower end of Aquarius feels lonely, feels misunderstood, thinks it's the lone wolf. Okay. So if you're having any of these lower vibes, this is the time to reach out to people. This is the time to find your community. I know the news is bananas right now. So this is the time to find like-minded people, okay, that are real, okay, not AI. Sorry, but not AI. So find these people, okay, because we want to keep ourselves in this higher vibration, and I know not every day is a 10 out of 10, okay, but it's also important that we've got to stay present and we've got to monitor how we feel every day. We've got to monitor that we've got to come from this heart space, right? All this energy in these feminine signs, right? Which is about our emotions and about allowing, we've got to allow ourselves to come out of the mind and get more into the heart space, okay? And we can talk more about that later. We've been talking about this channel for a long time, and we'll keep talking about it. Okay, so let's move into March. March 3rd, still in Pisces season. We've got our full moon. That'll be the total lunar eclipse in Virgo. Virgos, hang in there. I know you guys are in it to win it with the South Node in your sign as well. We're almost finishing that up. We've got this total lunar eclipse in your sign. We'll talk about that more. On the 10th, Jupiter, big boy Jupiter, will move direct, who's sitting there in Cancer. Remember, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Jupiter wants to bring in these good vibes. We'll speak more about that when we get there. The 18th, dark moon in Pisces. Okay. The 20th, we'll move into Aries season. Spring will be here. And on that same day, Mercury will turn direct. Okay. So big winter, Aquarius season, we're off and running. And we're just, and it's a sprint because we're on that fire horse. We're getting this wheel turning, right? This feminine energy is here. It's all in the sign of Aquarius, right? And Aquarius is that masculine energy. So it is going to move it out like no one's business, okay? Into the cosmos. And how that looks for you is going to be different than how it looks for me because Aquarius is about the individual, but it is also about the group, okay? And I always say Aquarius, especially now with Pluto in there, is answering old questions with new ideas. So don't be surprised that it's like we're still talking about this. The answer is, oh yeah, we are. But we're going to combat it with new information, new ideas, new energy, even. Okay. The only thing that slows all this down really is this Mercury RX that's going to happen in February because not only we're having these eclipses, not only is Neptune leaving Pisces for the rest of our lives. Not only is Uranus going direct, right, that rules Aquarius on February 3rd. Not only is that all going to be happening, but also what's happening is our day-to-day lives, right? And it is important to go back to staying present. Aquarius is fixed air, and we're bringing in new fixed energies. One of the reasons to me why this time has been so turbulent, especially since 2018 when Uranus went into Taurus, was because Uranus was churning up all that old energy that's been planted in Taurus for thousands of years, since the age of Pisces, right? And now Uranus, who rules Aquarius, we're in this age of Aquarius, had to go in there and start turning it up. And listen, 7 years is not a long time to turn over thousands and thousands of years of rule of patriarchal top-down power. But these planets know what they're doing. We want things to happen so fast, but really 7 years is pretty quick if you think you're alive for 90. Okay. So Uranus and Taurus, good match because Uranus rules Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed. Taurus is fixed. Pluto in Aquarius, good match. Scorpio is fixed. Aquarius is fixed. So I always say these fixed signs are like the temples. And when we start shaking the temples, raising the temples, putting new energy in the temple, it's a lot. It is a lot. But once these temples get the energy and they start to vibrate that energy, they get stronger and stronger. So that's why it's important we want this positive energy in these temples. We want Taurus to not have the energy of, we don't want any energy of the patriarchy, right? But that's why we want to plant these new seeds in this fresh earth. We want these fresh ideas, right? Pluto in Aquarius and Pluto coming from that energy of it's not going to be the old idea, right? It's going to come from Scorpio, which is water, the unknown, right? Allowing it to flow through us, right? Getting us out of the brain and into that heart space, moving things forward. Well, how do you think about things? Well, I think about things using my heart, right? And not the brain, which seems kind of odd right now. I've been talking about it so long, it's almost second nature. So I forgot that it feels odd to hear things like that. So if you have these questions, reach out to me. Oh, maybe, do you guys want to pull a card? Yeah, we'll pull a card for Aquarius season. So in closing, look who's on the bottom, Wheel of Fortune. So in closing, winter is going to be highly dynamic, okay? Even when we get into Pisces season, right, which is mutable, it's really going to show us what it is that we are, once again, have faith in leaving behind, what we're moving towards. Mercury going retrograde until spring, right, is kind of beautiful, right? Because it needs to go over. We need to slow down and see exactly how we're going to get rid of those things and exactly how we're going to start things new. All right, let's get a card for who's we got two. All right, Queen of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords. So swords energy, right, is air, right? It is Aquarius, it is Gemini, it is Libra, right? And this is the end of the old way. which is so great. It is the end of this old way of thinking. And what's coming in is this Queen of Pentacles, right? And this is twofold, okay? Because, okay, so the Queen of Pentacles is grounded. It's a mature energy. She's super in tune with the seasons. She knows how to take care of herself. She knows how to nurture herself. She knows how to nurture others, right? And she's really abundant in that, right? And again, this is even an homage to Uranus in Taurus, okay? But what we're ending is the idea that the Queen of Pentacles has to take care of everybody else, right? The idea that the Queen of Pentacles has to put everyone in front of her instead of tending to her own needs in her own garden first, right? And this is important in the background, you guys. With the Ten of Swords, it's a pretty intense card, right? But the water is quiet, right? That's the emotion. That's the feeling. The water is quiet. This guy's done, right? His spirit has transitioned. He's moved on. There's nothing left. He's now gone into the void and the ether, and sometimes they talk about like these are dark clouds, but to me, it's just the new beginning, right? And going back into that energy, starting something new. We're starting something new with this feminine energy. We're starting something new with how we are able to allow, how we're able to get into alignment, right? How we're going to be able to work with nature, work with our heart space. Oh, and what's really interesting, what's pointing out to me is this kind of looks like a snake skin, and we're shedding coming out of the wood snake and into this year of the fire horse, right? And we're going to be thinking about ourselves differently, right? This guy is ready to move into this energy, and this energy is ready to move into her aligned self. Okay. So she holds that giant pentacle because she's abundant, because she does understand boundaries. She understands when it's time to move. She understands it's okay to tend to herself first in her garden. So, and this guy is very happy to be in this state because he wants new ideas. We need new ideas. We need to come from different places. We need to come from the void, the darkness where things are created, and bring things into the light. Okay, friends, I'm going to leave it there. Happy Aquarius season, happy winter, happy Mardi Gras, because that's where we are now in New Orleans. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. You guys can leave comments, you can email me. And if you stuck around for the whole video, good for you. You're going to be a step above everyone else. I can tell you that right now. All right, friends, I will see you sometime soon. I'm going to start doing pick a cards coming up to kind of help move us with this energy in this new age of Aquarius. So, till then,